Update. My 25 female mom is dying. My sister 35 female is dependent on her in every possible way. Other sister 37 female and brother-in-law 39 male are now talking about how we will all have to take over for mom and take care of our sister. I do not want to do this. Original post. I will try to be brief. My sister Jen, 35 female, has been frankly a mess for her whole life. She has gotten exponentially worse since the age of 18 and literally expects the whole world to revolve around her and to cater to her. Unfortunately, it often does, and that's because my mom constantly gives in to her demands. She is also very demanding of my other sister Paula, 37, and myself, mostly of our time, but also of Paula's money. Jen will whine about how she feels so bad about owing Paula and my mom so much money, but apparently she doesn't feel that bad because she hasn't had a job since she was 19. She claims she sends in applications all the time, but that it's just really hard to get a job right now. I think that's bullshit. She could work somewhere, but she won't apply for anything less than $15 an hour despite having no skills. Other things to note, aside from being financially and emotionally dependent, she also can't or won't do any regular tasks for herself. She won't go to the grocery store alone. She has no car. She won't do her own laundry. She won't cook and is very overweight because she just eats junk or orders out. So far this year, my mom has spent over $20,000 paying for Jen's rent. She lives in an expensive one-bedroom in our city because she refused to look at low-income housing, and guess what? My mom allowed her to choose the apartment. My mom almost has no money to her name. Every cent from retirement and pension went to my sister. Those are the basics. Now, of course, this is complicated by the fact that she is not well mentally. She has depression and anxiety and some severe paranoia. Constantly, as positive people are making fun of her, etc., which contributes to her fear of working. And many doctors have suggested she might have bipolar or BPD. I understand that she is suffering and in a kind of a pain that none of us can fathom. But my pity is just gone. I feel like she could do something, anything, but just won't. Even getting her to a therapist was exhausting, and it hasn't really worked at all. She's been in therapy with one of the top doctors in our area, but she isn't completely honest with him, and he even recently told her that if she doesn't do something, there is no point in her seeing him anymore. So we're at a loss, but frankly, I'm done. I'm upset with everything, and even though it's killing me to watch my mom fade, somewhere inside I have to admit I'm also angry that she let this happen. I know she couldn't control my sister completely, but I just wish that she hadn't kept giving and giving and giving and creating this unhealthy dynamic. So now we're at a crossroads. Paula has been crying to me lately about how terrified and angry she is that we now have to take care of Jen, financially, emotionally, basic needs, whatever. I went to her house last night and we sat down with her husband and her oldest child, 15 male, to talk about things. She has seemed to just accept her fate and just depressingly acknowledges how now she has to keep paying Jim's rent and etc. But she and her husband have asked me to contribute in any way that I can because they have 2 kids who will eventually go to college, and it isn't fair for them to miss out on the things because of their unwell aunt. I agree, but I can't do this. I barely talk to Jen anymore and only see her at family events because she is so exhausting, and I refuse to cater to her ridiculousness. I tried for so long, and it did nothing, and now I can see how deeply stuck she truly is. I don't want to be dragged in. I think it's so sad that Paula is convinced that she has to take care of her sister. I don't know how to explain that we can say no. My mom was never able to, but we can. Unfortunately, I am seeing that Paula won't accept that, and she feels that as the oldest, she is required to do this. I know it's unlikely I can't convince her otherwise, but how can I explain I can't help them continue this pattern of dependency and codependency? I guess maybe I sound cold, but honestly, I just feel so numb. My mom deteriorated so much over the years, and honestly, I blame Jen for a lot of that, causing her so much stress and pain. And I think Jen has had too many years and too many chances to change. I give up. As bad as that sounds, I really give up. My opinion is that you are not responsible for your sister. Your mom has enabled your sister for far too long, and that is not on you, and it's not on Paula. So you need to look into some other alternatives. Best of luck to you, OP. Now for the comments before reading the update. No disrespect to your mother, but she created this mess. I've seen this in my own family. My uncle, who is somewhere in his 50s, is much like your sister, and guess what? After my grandma died, the family just picked up where she left off. It's exhausting, and finally, after a few years of total nonsense, my dad has said done, and is putting a timeline in place for Uncle to get out on his own and be an adult. Your sister may not be mentally well, but I note that she is not medically disabled. She has the capacity to take care of herself, but she chooses not to, because much like my uncle, she doesn't have to until now. You know what's coming, and I say you put your foot down now. Tell your other siblings no. If you and your sibs want to be kind, you can let her know up front and start planning for the day mom is gone. But I wouldn't, for a second, consider being mom 2.0 to her. She needs to get off her ass and live life. Ask her siblings, do they want to be burdened with this for another 40 years? Because that is exactly what they are signing up for if they take her on. Thank you. I totally agree, and that's really good that your dad is putting his foot down. I think I'm ready to do that. If anything, I feel stronger because of how angry I am. Not sure if that's good or bad, but it's helping at least with the feelings of guilt over giving up on my sister. It just really breaks my heart that Paula can't do the same. She is going to drag her kids into this situation, and I feel awful that my nephew especially will have to deal with the after effects. But I guess there's nothing I can do there. I have a private mini fund started for him and his sister, but still, it sucks to see his parents unintentionally prioritizing their aunt over him. The burden of guilt can make people do foolish things. My dad has been dragging my uncle along for years, even before my grandma passed. He was always bailing them out of trouble. This won't get better, and Paula isn't doing a good thing. She is sustaining the cycle of dysfunction your mother was too guilty to break. This does not help Jen. It might seem like it did, but they are not encouraging her to develop any skills. What happens if the worst happens and Paula dies or divorces or loses income and can no longer step up? She has children. You are so right that they should be her priority, not her overgrown, lazy child of a sister. I'll say it again, Jen is not incapable. She is unwilling. If she were medically unable to take care of herself, it would be a completely different situation, but it isn't. Yes, exactly. I didn't really think of it in the sense that it's guilt fueling all this, but I think you're absolutely right. It motivated a lot of poor decisions on my part years back, subjecting myself to mistreatment out of fear of abandoning Jen. It absolutely directed all of my mom's choices. The unfortunate thing is, Paula really believes that since it is Jen being unwilling, Paula somehow has the power to change that and make her willing. But she doesn't. No one does. Not even the trained professional who my mom paid $300 a session for Jen to see. Now for the update. Hi everyone. I have a sort of an update that I wanted to share since you all helped me so immensely the last time I posted. Please let me start by saying thank you from the bottom of my heart. I was in a very dark and numb place, and you all really helped give me some clarity when I desperately needed it. So, the basics. My mom is actually doing okay right now. The prognosis was much worse before in that they were saying that she could go as quickly as 3 months. But just a couple of days after my first post, she was able to do more on her own, keep down food, get out of bed, and interact much more normally than before. They are saying that if she continues to show consistency like this, it could be a lot longer than we first thought. Regardless, it's a long road ahead, and we will just have to see what happens. Paula has been somewhat come to her senses on this whole matter. She and her husband invited me over, and she apologized profusely for guilt-tripping me and for expecting that I would share a responsibility like this just out of obligation. She said that she was not coping well with her mom's condition and was feeling desperate and frankly terrified, so she was being a bit irrational. I asked her why she felt obligated to strap herself and her family to Jen, and she couldn't really answer beyond saying that she does feel responsible for her well-being, as she does for me, her kids, etc. She doesn't think that she could cope with knowingly letting Jen suffer. All I could do was assure her that that's not her cross to bear and that she should consider seeing a counselor to talk it through and get some perspective. Paula also said that she literally cannot support Jen financially in the long term, as her mother has to an extreme, and she wanted to look into other options for Jen. She explained that she knew that she could not put her family second to take care of Jen. So the first thing that we did was reach out to Jen's therapist. Thank you to all who suggested it, and we had a family session today. It went as I expected, I guess. Paula and I went with Jen there. Honestly, I was shaking before I got there because I have been deliberately pulling away from Jen for the last few years, and I know that she is livid and hurt. I know Jen would lash out, and she certainly did. But it was good in that the therapist, who is the one best in our area for personality disorders, anxiety, etc., explained that she couldn't help her if she didn't try something. And he actually would not recommend that Paula and I support Jen forever if she refused to do something. He asked Jen if she would consider accepting a job at, say, McDonald's, and she said flat out, no. When he asked why, she kept repeating, I just don't want to be around people. And he said, okay, but if your sister said that she wouldn't support you if you didn't accept it, would you? She said no, that they shouldn't just cut me off like that. That's effed up. He said that he blamed our family a lot, absolutely makes sense, and when Jen said, but their family, they should be there, he set it up like this. Imagine you were supporting your sisters financially, emotionally, physically, whatever, and someone came up and offered your sister a job at McDonald's and they said no. How would you react? She said that she would be annoyed, but she wouldn't just abandon us, so there wasn't much wiggle room there. I wish he'd explained that it's not abandonment and that we can't drag ourselves down if she won't do the smallest of things, but I'm not a therapist. I was really relieved to have him there because she then jumped into saying, only mom has been there for me. You haven't at all, to me, and I explained as best as I could that we all needed to be happy and healthy and functioning to have healthy relationships. It's not me not being there, but I need to support from a distance because it affects me deeply. And in fact, I was there all the time. It didn't help Jen at all. I said that this has been going on for years and being tightly wrapped up in each other was actually damaging and not helping her at all. He backed me up on that and asked her why she thought that her family should do all this for her. She just kept repeating because we're family and I would do it for them and I've always been there for them. She also went off about how I've changed since I went to college and blamed my boyfriend for that a lot. She said how lucky you are not to have to give a F. It's easier to be distant. She was extremely angry but crying at this point, which was hard to see. I tried as much as I could not to argue at all, but to say I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I disagree, and refocus on us talking about the heck what we're going to do next. The therapist also tried to do the same, focusing on how Jen needs to move beyond these familial expectations and start to do something for herself. He told her it's going to be extremely hard for her to find a job and it will be a lot of work. She acknowledged she needed to, but then he again asked if she'd now consider accepting a job at McDonald's, and she again said no, and that she couldn't explain why. It was so hard to hear this because I just felt like we kept hitting walls. Paula even brought up how she couldn't afford this financially, and that when Jen lived with her for over a year, nothing changed. Jen immediately shot back, well, that was because it was toxic in your house. The therapist asked how she contributed to that toxicity, and she said that she just didn't like Paula's husband. That was more or less the situation. I felt feeling really mixed up and at least relieved that I tried something. Jen also thanked me for coming, but not before talking to me outside very bitterly about how I've hurt her so much and not been there for her. Repeats of the same stuff in the session. She said that I used to be very family-oriented when I was a child through 18, I guess, and I've changed so much and not all families are close, but ours is, and we should never not help each other. I explained I needed to take care of myself and I've been trying to do that, get healthier because I've not been doing well mentally or emotionally. I wanted her to do the same. She was somewhat receptive actually and understanding, but didn't sway from her position that we always share the definition of family until I went to college. She said I was always there for you, and then you didn't need me anymore when you met your boyfriend. I said, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that isn't how I feel at all. But we can't all set each other on fire to keep each other warm. Thanks, guys. And that us being there was actually hurting each other's growth so much. She agreed, but said, again, but you're not some stranger off the street, you're my sister. Sorry for the link, but anyway, that seemed to somewhat make sense to her, I guess. I realize, though, that I will never change that line of thinking, and she will always believe that Paula and me, especially, are extremely selfish. Fortunately, after that, she seemed to relax a bit and agreed that she needed to wake up and do something. She said that she wished something could wake her up, like if she was about to get hit by a train and realized, shit, I need to move. All I could think of was that her wake up would be us cutting her off. But the therapist said that he wouldn't recommend that. However, he also thinks Paula needs to put up limitations on how long she will help him and set a firm line. Jen needs to put in the effort to get its social worker begin a program that helps adults find jobs and apply for disability. Her type of insurance is awful in this state, which complicates things, but she claims she will do the research. So I really don't know. Honestly, I don't have much hope. I just don't. There are just so many issues that seems to be insurmountable. I don't expect any change because she hasn't hit any kind of rock bottom. She claimed that me explaining that I would continue to keep her at a distance, her words not mine, but whatever, made her want to change. But I really don't believe that. I love her and I always will, but I just don't see that. For me, I just plan on continuing to stay out of this. I hate that she thinks it doesn't affect me, but I have to let that go. The hardest thing for me is all this guilt I feel. For years, we were all living under the notion that if you did something and it hurt someone else's feelings, you were responsible for those person's feelings. And now I'm trying to convince myself that that's not true, and I'm struggling. I saw it plain as day, and I knew always that me pushing her away is hurting her immensely. If I am aware of that, and I still do, shouldn't that mean that I should be responsible for how she feels? This is where I get stuck. If a kid hurts his friend's feelings, you'd say you should apologize because he's responsible for it. I'm stuck at how I am absolved of this. I'm stuck because all I hear is her telling me I've been selfish and knowing that she's right, even if it is for my health. Sorry for this mess of a post. I'm very confused by it all, and it feels like my life as a whole and everyone in it is just so uncertain. I guess going forward, I'm hoping that Jen does as she says. She will, and looks into the programs her therapist suggested. I'm hoping she gets on any track at all, but that's all I can really do, is hope and offer to help her if she takes those first steps, which I have serious doubts about. It effing sucks feeling so helpless about it, but I just can't let myself dive back in. Ugh. Not be happiest, I know, but it's something. More importantly, something even minorly different from all the things my mom did that actually buried us all in this mess. I plan on continuing to talk to Paula and support her as much as I can. Hopefully convince her to come to a therapy session with me and see that neither of us have to carry this guilt forever. Thank you all again so much. Story 2. My father, 66 male, was released from prison after a decade. I, 28 female, took care of his dogs, taxes, finances, and properties during his incarceration. At the start of his prison sentence, he would call me and make demands of what I do with my time and money and ask me for a detailed list of where my money goes. He had sent people over to my house to pop in and ask me those questions and check on different valuable items. After dealing with that and a year of incessant questioning, I just stopped answering the phone unless it was his birthday or Christmas. I always wanted a good relationship with my father. I did not answer his calls. It seemed he had forgotten what life on the outside was like. However, I still sent him cards for every holiday and season change. I mailed him magazine and newspaper subscriptions, pictures of his dogs, etc. Once in a while, I would type out a long letter as a life update and mail it to him. I preferred it this way as he could reread the letter multiple times or reference it, so there was no mistaking what I was trying to communicate to him. It was just easier that way, and it was easy to set this boundary when he was imprisoned. When he went to prison, he had 3 houses he owned outright. 3 other properties he owned outright, and 1 rented garage property. I spent my years 18 to 26 working multiple minimum wage jobs to ensure that he lost nothing during his incarceration: property tax, home repairs, new gas lines, appliances, etc. His oldest dog passed away, and then his youngest dog passed away 7 months before his release. But everything else was available to him the moment he rejoined the real world. From pots and pans to appliances and properties, everything was there for him. At around 26, I got an adult job, so I no longer had to work 4 jobs to make ends meet. I bought a starter home with my significant other, and we got married the following year. We are just starting our life together. Now that he's out, he is constantly asking me to loan him crazy amounts of money that I don't have. For example, $5,500 for a motorcycle, etc., and I have to explain to him that I do not have money like that. If I visit or speak with him, he will ask me for a large amount of money like that, and then he'll ask for $5,000 or $500 or $100 or $50, and then I cannot leave before giving him $50 or agreeing to pay an $89 fee for his parole or something, etc. He has begun his incessant questioning and calling again. He will send me message after message before 6 a.m., then call 5 times when I'm getting ready for work, send multiple texts, and call me 17 plus times while I'm at work. About 30 minutes before I'm done with work, he will begin the back-to-back calling again, and then he will call and text me all night long, and then the cycle restarts. My husband is very patient with my father and doesn't say anything negative about the situation to me, but I can tell it bothers him, as my dad will also ask my husband for money, who he never met or spoke to before his release from prison. I'm sure to him it seems like all of a sudden this stranger popped up and is behaving radically and relentlessly. The only comment my husband has made is that he is surprised by how infantilized my father is, or makes himself. For reference, my father is the typical paranoid boomer who is the first person to tell you you're not working hard enough, etc. TLDR, so I don't know what to do to solve this problem. My dad was released 6 months ago, has a job, can get Social Security, and has everything he had before he was imprisoned. I just want some peace after the last 10.5 years. I want some room to breathe, to work, and build on my husband and I's lives together. For now, I have stopped answering the phone or begun answering the phone less, but then my father starts behaving like this towards my husband, asking for favors or money. I have tried speaking with him in the past about it, but he tells me that he's starting his life over and just needs a little help. Then I feel guilty for not cutting him a break. I'm unsure of what to do. Has anyone dealt with a similar situation? If so, how did it turn out, or how did you navigate it? How can I convey this to my father without ruining mine or our relationship? How can I tell him this without coming off as rude or creating a rift or a shift in our relationship? That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.